Michael Allen from Manpower. We are a national brand, yet locally owned franchise. We are familiar with the challenges businesses face. It's tough recruiting and retaining qualified employees. That's why working with Manpower is a smart, cost-effective solution. Our entire focus is talent acquisition. We'll manage your hiring and training and provide ongoing customized support. Since 1966, we have been your community-invested partner, uniquely positioned to help eliminate the hassles and save you time and money. Let us help. Contact Manpower today. Hello and welcome to The Hub, powered by Manpower Richmond. I am your host, Michael Allen. And here on The Hub, we interview local business leaders, community partners, and various special guests. And our mission here is to share unique and untold stories of companies, organizations, and people who are making a difference in our community. So today's guest on The Hub is newly elected Mayor of Richmond, Ron Oler. Welcome to The Hub.
Thank you,
Mayor,
Michael. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I really love it that you were willing to come sit with us this morning. I mean, you're just about 17 days into your job, and I know you probably have a lot going on, and it means a lot that you'd be willing to spend some time with us, just kind of talking about your plans for the city and just some personal information about you.
Glad to be here.
You know, like myself, you're a lifelong Richmond and Wayne County resident.
Yes.
So just kind of share a little bit with our followers about, growing up in Richmond, your family, going to school, that kind of stuff.
Okay, glad to. Well, first, let me say to the viewers, if you don't know what day it is, we're in the middle of cold snap, the Arctic cold snap. So we're on the, third floor of this old building with drafty windows. So I'm really happy to be here this morning. No, it's okay. We have a little bit of heat here, so I just wanted to, just for context, you got to know that it's really cold out there.
Yeah, very.
So starting my third week as mayor, City of Richmond has been pretty awesome, been pretty busy. As you said, I was born in Richmond, on the south side of town. The little house I was born in is still there, although we moved out of that when I was 4 years old, I do believe. So like a lot of people, I was born at the old Hospital site, which is now a grassy hill, and someday, hopefully during my first term, we'll make it into something.
That would be great, yeah.
That would be great. Get some plans, get some things going. Richmond has a super interesting history, and I don't need to remind the viewers of all that, but I'm really hoping that together we'll have such a brighter future. So when I was 4 years old, though, we moved out to the county to one of the family farms, and that's where I spent most of my early years and childhood years with livestock and grain, and started driving at age 9 and bought my first motorcycle at age 12, first car at age 15. And then as a teenager, moved back to the city. I went to college after high school. I had the opportunity to go in the military. I had family who had been in the military. My brother went in the Army. We were working for Dad's fence company through high school. And my brother decided to go to the Army. I was supposed to go to the Air Force, and I changed my mind and went to Ivy Tech and got a degree in electronics, because I found this company called Allied Broadcast Equipment on the south side of town and said I wanted to work for them. And did that for a dozen years, became a certified broadcast engineer. I traveled the world and built radio stations for 12 years. I got to work in wonderful places. Instead of the military sending me around the country, I had a corporation send me around the country. So I worked in Africa, Taiwan, Russia, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Mexico, all over the U.S.
So I guess kind of stop you there for a minute. So when you went on these trips abroad, how long would you be at these different locations?
Most of them were just a week, but the Africa was a month. We had built a Voice of America relay station in West Africa, and I got to go there for a month to train engineers on how to operate the equipment, maintain the equipment. Somebody else had installed it. That was one of the ones that took like 2 years to build. That was an interesting one, because I was supposed to go 1 year, and I was ready to go and do all this training. I only had 10 days of training for these Africans to operate and maintain this equipment. So the year I was supposed to go, the Army decided to kidnap the president of this country because they hadn't been paid in a couple months. So the State Department said no travel. So a year later, when I finally went, I got there, and the first day there was a holiday. Okay. And then there's only one plane a week out of this area, one commercial plane on Wednesday nights. So my 10 days of working ended up taking 3 weeks. And this is before cell phones. This is back in the early 90s, and it cost $10 a minute to call home. So once a week, I call home to my wife and say, hey, I got to stay another week because we're not finished. Hey, I got to stay another week because we're not finished. And she was getting panicky. Here I was in the far reaches of Western Africa. But it was a wonderful experience. It was a good experience. I left in '99 when Harris Court moved to Mason, Ohio, and I took a full-time faculty position at Ivy Tech. But before that, I went and got a bachelor's in business administration in Ivy Tech. I was there 21 years. I chaired a bunch of programs, professor, department chair, a dean, director of 2 campuses, got a master's and a PhD, and thought I would stay in higher education for the rest of my career. I came onto council 12 years ago, so I was on council for 3 terms. And I thought I'd stay at Ivy Tech until full retirement, but then COVID hit and everything changed, and I was ready for something different.
Yeah.
So I actually, go ahead.
There's a lot of stories that after COVID hit.
Hit,
it really changed a lot of people's
COVID
lives.
changed so many things. I love teaching, and up until this campaign, I still taught for IU East as part-time. I've taught for Purdue, Indiana Wesleyan, and taught for IU East for 7 or 8 years.
When I think about, different mayors we've had, I'd have to, compliment you. I think you have one of the most diverse resumes that I've seen of different people who have held your office, and hopefully, how do you think? You have done a lot of different things.
Yeah, probably. I spent the last 3 years in project management for a large construction company.
So how do you think that's going to serve you well in your role as mayor?
Supervising people. So I was ready day one. During my time as a department chair and a dean and a director of 2 campuses, I would always supervise 10 to 12 people at a time. And there was a time during a Great Recession when enrollment was through the roof, and there was a year where I supervised 42 people directly and another 100 indirectly. So I came into this job with a lot of supervisory experience, so I knew right on the first day what I had to change. And one of the first things I changed is I brought in an attorney to be the HR director in Kenyatta Cox. So we hired her. She has labor law experience. So one of the things we're changing is the way we supervise people, the way we lead people, manage people. A lot of the city's policies, we're looking through all the policies and practices and making sure we're doing the best thing for the city employees, that we're serving them the best way possible and they're getting the best supervision possible.
When you have, I'm sure there's a lot of people that work for the city that have been there for a long time.
Yes.
And so then, they're there, different administrations, you come in, make a lot of changes. How do you come in and gently, make these changes? Because you have a conviction that these are the right things to do. But a lot of times people don't like change. And it's not, maybe they don't necessarily don't like you, but they just don't like somebody kind of changing their routine or, their process or whatever. I've been in business myself for over 30 years, and when I've changed stuff, I've seen how people reacted. But, how do you come into this to try to, encourage people to, be patient and kind of trust the things that you're trying to do?
Trust the process.
Yeah.
So back on the personnel side and the policies and practices, over the last couple of decades, a lot of practices haven't aligned up with policies, and a lot of policies haven't aligned up with practices. So we're working through getting those things to align. So we're going to choose the best practice that makes sense, and it helps the city grow, and it helps employees to have a better work environment. Those practices will become policy. And now we have some policies that haven't been into practice, but legally we need to change. So we're working it from both angles. So some of the best practices will become policies, some of the worst policies will disappear.
I saw this, it's been several years ago. It was about employee engagement, and it said that there's, like, your organization is like a canoe, and there's like 6 people, and they're in the canoe, they're rowing, they're trying to make it happen. And there's 2 people, they're just kind of along for the ride. But then there's 2 other people, they're trying to actually sink it.
Yes.
So I'm sure there's different analogies like that, but I guess ultimately, if
There have been some personnel changes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a nice way of saying it.
In my mind, let me share this with you. My philosophy on employment, after teaching business and running business programs for a couple of decades and working in a construction agency for a long period of time, I call it a fit issue. If there's someone in a job who's not happy in the job because that's really not their skill set, I think it's more cruel to leave them in that job and give them hope of a better future when they know and it's not a good fit. It's a fit issue. So there comes a time, and in all my careers, there comes a time when we need to set them free to do something different. In the city, a lot of times, though, there's so many departments. It's basically, most of the time, it's just moving from department to department. So looking at this person's doing this job, but that's not your skill set. This person's doing this job, not your skill set. Why don't we swap jobs?
Right.
So that happens quite a bit in the city. But I think it's meaner and crueler to keep someone in a dead-end job where they're not going to get promoted, where they're not going to get the pay increase they want because their skills aren't there and their heart's not there, to just keep dragging them out just because they like one of the benefits,
Right.
than to set them free to find something better.
Yes.
And there's a lot. You've had entrepreneurs on here. A lot of entrepreneurs are that way. A lot of entrepreneurs will come from a frustrated work environment in the corporate world and decide to do something different. I mean, how old was Colonel Sanders when he founded KFC? How old was Dave Thomas when he founded Wendy's? Mm-hmm. Yeah, not young people.
Right. I want to back up a little bit on this podcast on the Hub. One question, try to make sure I ask everybody, just because of my association with employment. What was your first job? Like your very first job that you had, where you got a paycheck, you pay taxes, Social Security.
Pay taxes. I have to back up before that. When I was 9 years old, a farmer that we knew, his son was injured, and Dad farmed my brother and I out to help him bale hay. Mm-hmm. And at the end, Dad said, "You're going to get paid for this. You're going to work for this farmer for a week." Mom or Dad drove us there every day. "You're going to help him bale hay and put up the hay. And at the end of the week, you're going to get paid." And I was 9 years old, and I go, "That's cool," because I wanted this, I wanted that. I grew up in a household where our parents would buy us the minimum stuff for school. We get the Kmart shoes and the Kmart pants. If we wanted the Levi's shoes and Levi's pants and Converse shoes, we had to pay the difference. Right. So at 9 years old, I was excited. I was going to get money, and before school started, I was going to have Chuck Taylor tennis shoes. Awesome, yes. Right? Playing basketball. Mm-hmm. Friday, the farmer comes and gives me a piece of paper, and it's a check. And I'm like, I thought I was getting paid. And my mom says, "This is money." I said, "No, it isn't. This is a piece of paper with his name on it." So she took me to People's State Bank. She opened a savings account, put it in there. Like, I got money.
Yeah,
I like this.
It's an introduction to finance.
Introduction, personal finance and savings. So I started saving and saving and saving. So when in high school, of course, worked for the family business a lot. But then I think I was in 10th grade. I went to work for the Big Blue Store.
Okay,
which was used to be on the west side of town. It's like a Tractor Supply. If you don't know Big Blue Store, now it's Baumgar's. So a farm store. And by the time I was a senior in high school at 18 years old, I had a retirement plan, dental insurance, a new truck, and I was a shift leader. And when I went to high school, my senior year, I only went to school. I had more than enough credits to graduate. I wasn't academically special. I just took the right classes, and I had more than enough credits to graduate. So I had to take like 3 classes my senior year. So at 12 o'clock, I was out of class my senior year and worked 1 to 9 Monday through Friday as a shift leader at Big Blue Store with a retirement plan, a new truck, health insurance, dental insurance, and never looked back.
Wow. That's great. That's awesome.
The value of work. I mean, that's what spending those 11 years or so on the farm taught us, the value of work and saving money for the things you want instead of going into debt. So my first college degree, I saved money. I kept working. I paid for my first college degree out of pocket. I was that 19-year-old, maybe 20 when I started because I took a gap year. So I'd meet with my advisor to sign up for classes in electronics. I'd take that paper to the registrar's office who put it in the computer. I'd take that paper to the bursar's office. I'd pull out my checkbook. I'd write a check for the tuition. Then I'd take my checkbook to the bookstore and write a check and buy books. And I did that for several years till I got my first college degree.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And come from nothing. I mean, we were so poor when I was born. They told me I didn't have a baby crib for me. My baby crib was an open dresser drawer in by mom's side of the bed. The bottom dresser drawer, that was my crib. That's how poor we were. But we weren't broke, or we weren't. Well, that's how broke we were. We weren't poor. Let's say that.
Right.
Because we knew the value of hard work and pulling yourself up.
Well, we take from those experiences and they make us who we are today.
Yes.
And it sounds like those experiences served you well throughout your career. Shifting back into politics a little bit, you served on Common Council for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And what kind of motivated you to run for council the first time around? And, you end up having 3 terms, but I mean, why did you choose to do that initially?
Well, it really started that senior year of high school way back when, because we still had to take a civics class to graduate high school. Mm-hmm. And there was this actor out of California who wanted to be president. named Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
So I wrote a paper on him, and there was this guy from Indianapolis named Richard Dick Lugar who wanted to run for Senate. So I wrote a paper on them, and I was 18 years old, so I got to vote as a senior in high school. And I've been active in the party ever since, but I never really ran for anything. I was always there helping the party, helping with parades and floats and doing events and always in the background. But when I was asked 16 years ago, before I actually ran the first time, the party asked me to run for council to replace someone who wanted to change positions on government. I was finishing my doctorate at Indiana State University, and I said, no, I couldn't. I can't. I got to finish the PhD because I know me. If I run for council and I get busy in council, I'll never finish the dissertation.
Right.
So 4 years later, I ran out of excuses to the party. So I ran, and I loved it. I immediately got on the finance committee. Last year, I chaired the public safety committee, so we created a DORA ordinance that I think is really solid. I got to meet with state excise police yesterday, and I told him what we did in our DORA ordinance. He was kind of excited, some of the controls we put in place that other cities haven't done. So if you don't know what a DORA is, a designated outdoor refreshment area we created around the depot district. That's our first one. I assume before long we'll have one in the downtown area too, once we get some more restaurants and housing and other establishments downtown. Yeah. They'll probably want one too.
So that that area of the depot, that's in effect right now.
Yes.
So
and that's very limited. They can only run 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they're only going to activate it when they have special events. So it's not every Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And all the establishments that participate in the DORA have to have the DORA cups, but they also have to put their name on them.
Okay.
So that's one of the things we did that other cities didn't think of. If we start finding cups from this establishment in the street or outside the DORA, then that establishment's got a problem. That's one of our control systems. So instead of having police patrol it all the time, we'll just go out afterwards and look for cups and see if anybody's breaking the law.
Yeah. Good idea. Good idea. So I would think that serving 12 years on council provides you with an opportunity to really hit the ground running as mayor.
It did.
I think there shouldn't be too many surprises. But so I'm saying I'm making an assumption there weren't too many surprises. So is there any part of that? What part of that statement is true? But what part of it have you found so far to maybe not be quite accurate?
I knew what I wanted to change right off the bat. So I brought in a new police chief, a couple of majors, a new fire chief, a new assistant fire chief, HR director, and everybody else is pretty much the same. I knew about that, but one of the things the surprise was all the boards and commissions the mayor has to appoint people to. So on council typically, we have an appointee to this board or this commission, and you get a couple a year. And the first day in the mayor's office, so here's your spreadsheet of all the boards and commissions and people you have to appoint to. And by the way, a lot of them just expired December 31st, 2023, and you need to find somebody to fill that seat, and you've got about 2 weeks to do it because they're meeting. Like, yay. I know a lot of people, so it was
do they expire typically at the end of a term, or it's just happened the way
most of them expire at the end of the year. Some are 1 term, 1 year, 3 years, and 4 years. The other surprising part was how many I had to swear in, because on council, we do an oath of office every term. Mayor does an oath of office. But some of these boards, because they handle finances, they have to take an oath of office. So I had to get with the city clerk, get the oath of office printed, and actually swear them in, just like I was sworn in. Board of Works is a good example. There's just every day it seems like something new pops up. Wow. And I get reminded by a department head, this committee's meeting next week, this commission's meeting next week, and you need to come and swear them in. Like, I had other plans, but no, I'm doing the job.
Well, good.
I will be there.
Good. So I was going to get to just a couple of things you talked about during the campaign. You said that during the campaign you stated that restoring public safety would be a top priority, and that's where some of the personnel changes you've made, and the new police chief, the majors, the new fire chief, assistant chief. So what did that process look like, and how did it go when these appointees were announced? I mean, how did that go?
As expected, some people were happy and some people weren't. Mm-hmm. So that's just the way it is. On the police side, one of the things I want to bring back, the city tried community policing maybe 2 decades ago. And there was an officer who was a chief at the time and really tried it, but the establishment just fought him all the way. So one of the things we're bringing back is community policing. So the majors I brought over with experience in the sheriff's department, they have a background in that. And we're going to reenact community policing, re-engage people, re-engage the neighborhood associations and re-engage the citizens. So it's not just hiring up the officers, which we're doing. It was kind of funny. The day I swore in, January 2nd, the day I swore in the department heads and the chiefs, they turned around and swore in 1 new police officer and 5 new firefighters. And one of those firefighters is a 5th-generation family member. So Rotunda, the city building, was full of all the family and friends watching these new officers being sworn in. It was a good day.
Yeah.
That felt really good.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, any decision evokes certain responses, positive and negative, no matter what. And that's
Yes.
a tough, that's a challenge in leadership. You have to do what you feel is follow your convictions and do that. And that's just part of comes with the territory, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. So, we've had a problem with crime. We've had a problem with the opioid crisis. The biggest problem with crime is a youth crime. So we have 3 officers now in charge of traffic and juveniles. So I think that's a big plus, having 3 out there on the street, or watching for the juveniles, working with the juveniles. It's just like the opioid epidemic. You really can't arrest your way out of juvenile crime problems. You have to educate.
It seems like law enforcement agencies are short in personnel all over. Where does the Richmond Police Department stand right now as far as personnel? Like how many more officers are we looking for currently, or ballpark?
Last summer they were down 12. Now I think they're down 5 or 6. And I say that because there's always some in the retirement drop too.
Right.
That'll just pop up, and there's probably some coming, I think, in the spring. So I think we're down 5, but we could be down 8, but we'll hire up more. One of the things that help is bringing in a chief of police from the sheriff's department with 22 years of experience, has a relationship with other agencies that RPD didn't have. Mm-hmm. So there's other agencies interested in lateral transfers. So that's something we're working on too.
Right. So, maybe 5 to 10 additional officers would be nice.
Yes.
Sounds like.
Yes, working on it. One of the things that we're really trying to do is restore pride and respect to law enforcement. I think, and this is my opinion, and you may agree with me, since 9/11, our firefighters are the heroes, and they've been the heroes for a long time. And it's not hard to find firefighters. Sometimes it's hard to find EMTs and paramedics because we have the ambulance service, but there's a lot of honor and respect and dignity going to firefighters. But since stuff that the national media has portrayed in the last 3 years, it's making it less desirable to be a law enforcement officer. So we need to change that nationwide, change that image nationwide.
I mean, we live in a smaller community, but I think we're just because of things, how it's portrayed, like you said, in the media and whatever, it's still probably a challenge. I mean, it's
now, the best thing you can do is just turn off the national news.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what's happened locally, and you'll see that we're not that bad.
I've had several interactions with the Richmond Police Department, not on a negative side.
Okay.
But my office is right across the street from the police department.
Okay.
And you have a lot of different reasons why I would have had interaction, but I've always had outstanding response from
Good.
the Richmond Police Department.
Good. We'll keep that up.
It's obvious that they're here to protect, but I always like to think they're also here to serve. And I think when they demonstrate service qualities, that's when they really
and restoring
catch my
this
edge.
community policing, getting officers back out in the neighborhoods and establishing relationships.
Yeah,
I think it's very important.
restoring public safety. What does that look like? I mean, how are you going to measure that? Is it like less reported crimes, solving crimes, more arrests, convictions?
Yes,
all those things.
All those things. All those things. More officers, more patrols, more people on the street.
So you've had a lot of personnel considerations you've had to make. You mentioned the thing that surprised you was all these boards you had to put people on. Mm-hmm. Part of what you were wanting to do was the city advisory committee. Have you even had time to think about that yet? I mean, where do you stand with that?
I have a couple of people who helped on my campaign are putting that together, community advisory committee. So a few community leaders have been asked and are working on getting that started. Probably, I don't know if it's next week or the 1st of February when we'll start meeting.
How?
Now, I have gone, so, I'm on the chamber board now, so I'm on a lot of boards, so I'm out there myself.
Right.
My goal was, I will be out there myself, but there comes a time when I want to bring people to the mayor's office and just have a conversation.
But when you mentioned city advisory committee, that is your own committee you're creating
Yes.
of people that you're asking to help serve the community in that
Yes.
unique way. So how many do you have a kind of an idea of how many people you're going to have on that committee?
I think it'll start in the 10 to 12 range is what we're looking at.
All right.
And it's leaders from all aspects, not just business leaders, not just medical leaders, but non-government agencies, churches, church leaders. I have a group of people from a church who come in and pray over me once a week and pray over the city. I think that's helping too.
Absolutely. I believe that one challenge to asking people's opinions, sometimes people get disappointed or even upset when you don't follow their advice or input. How do you deal with that? Or how do you think you're going to deal with that?
When I ask people's opinion, ask their advice, just like in business, you say you're doing a market study, you're going to get 5 different ideas and you're going to choose the 3 that are best. You can't always choose all 5. And I think most people will realize that. We can't do all 5 things. We could do, let me take it back. We could do 5 things poorly, but I'd rather do 3 things very well. I'd rather do 1 thing great at a time, 2 things great at a time, 3 things good. There's a lot of research on good to great, and I want the city to be great, not just good.
Right. Well, that's hopefully when you meet together and you convey, your goals together, people can understand that there's, like you said, there's only so many things that you can grasp onto.
Well, there's only so many things the mayor can do. We need community leaders to step up.
Yes.
And people like you're taking care of this show and your business. You have one of the best maintained, manicured lawns in the city out there in front of your business. You do a great job with landscaping and keeping it nice. And we need every business owner to take that responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely would love to see more of pride in our downtown.
Pride,
and
yes.
I want to ask you, I actually do have a question for you about downtown, but I want to ask one other part about, you stated you want to be small business centered. So a quote from some of your paperwork says, government shouldn't work against our small businesses. Let me start over. Government shouldn't work against our small business success. They should be working for their success.
Yes, government for the people. So that's going through policies and practices, going through code enforcement. I'm taking basically taking control of the code enforcement department, where the mayor's office is, and making sure that we're doing things that help the community, not hurt the community.
So that's an example of government working for the business success.
Yes.
And what do you believe, or I don't want to go too negative, but the comment must have come from somewhere. That government shouldn't be working against. So, what does working against?
Government has a lot of rules and a lot of codes and a lot of regulations, and you need to enforce all those, but you also need to be reasonable. So government needs to be reasonable. If someone's struggling with mowing their grass, don't just give them a fine, give them a solution. Help them out. Talk to the neighbors. I live by, we used to have 3 widows who live next door to us, and now there's 2, and we make sure their lawn's mowed. We make sure their trash is picked up. Being a good neighbor is important. So my view of code enforcement, yes, they need to crack down on the bad actors, but if they're out there and they see something and they can help someone, they need to help someone as much as enforcing the code.
Right.
Or even more so, but also just talking to the neighbors. There's people on social media who are complaining about somebody's dog is outside during his cold snap, and it's their neighbor's dog. And I ask them, well, have you gone over to and offered to help? And some of them say yes, but a lot of them say no, I want the government to help. It's not the government's job to go into someone's yard and take care of a dog unless, of course, it's truly being neglected and we need to enforce some laws.
Right.
It's if the person's having trouble, they don't have money for food or shelter for their dog, just go help them out. Go help out your neighbor. Be a good neighbor. That's what we need.
Yeah, you mentioned, we had Joyce Luckett here from Animal Care Alliance, and just on the animal side of things, it's a huge issue within our community. But there's a lot of people really trying to work hard to help that topic.
Yes. And the government needs to help them.
Right.
Government needs to help the people who are trying to help, and that's what I'm trying to do.
We could go through a whole huge list of things, and I won't do that to you. But I do have to ask you a little bit about downtown Richmond.
Yes.
I think this issue has so many moving parts. You mentioned my business is located in part of downtown. The city building is at one end of the downtown area. But I think this issue's been around for decades. And I don't really feel like we're making any traction.
Well, we
So
haven't.
how can we?
Haven't had major investment downtown since the explosion in '68. But now, between the market rate apartments coming to the old Elder Bremen project, which is roughly a $40 million investment, some of it public, most of it private, and the $25 million Revitalize Richmond Lilly grant that Earlham helped facilitate, and the matching dollars for that $25 million Lilly grant, we're over 110, 120 million of investment downtown coming in the next 3 years. So these properties are going to take 2 or 3 years. It's not going to happen overnight, people. So give us 2 or 3 years. They're going to tear down some buildings. They're going to modernize some buildings. Once we get more people living downtown, we'll get more people shopping downtown. We already have 3 bakeries downtown. We have Susie's Pizza moved out of the basement of the old Y, and they're up here now. And we had Kathy Hilliard on her not long ago. Now her downtown deli's hopping.
Yes.
So we have 3 restaurants, and Sweet Besselings have breakfast and lunch. We have 3 restaurants again downtown. We have 3 bakeries. So we need some boutique shops to come downtown. But honestly, we're not going to get major retail after COVID downtown anymore. We can't even keep them in the mall because everybody's ordering on Amazon. So that's never going to happen. But what will happen is the boutique shops. You take other small towns like Richmond, cities like Richmond, and their downtowns revitalized with boutique shops. And you get boutique shops because you get people living downtown or near downtown who want to patronize those boutique stores, and then a steakhouse and other things. It'll just keep on snowballing. And professional offices. You talked about the city building and the county building. There's 800 people working right down here between the city and the county and the sheriff's department and the Social Security and the federal offices. We've got a lot of people who, when the weather's nice, you'll see them walking downtown. I did this in the fall. When I was walking downtown to go to a restaurant. I couldn't believe how many people were coming out and going to these restaurants and shops again. So the shops will come.
Right. You mentioned the apartments, and I think those are going to go where the former Elder Bierman building is.
Yeah, let me tell you something about
I'm
those.
a little skeptical about this the apartments, if it's really going to happen. I hear lots of talk about it and whatever, but I guess I won't understand until I actually see something happen there.
Yeah, let me paint a little picture for you. So this developer out of Indianapolis has done this all over the state for years. They have 40-something of these. They've done this in Kokomo and Lawrenceburg. They're not places where people said you can't do it, and it's working. And the donut cities of Indianapolis where they started, of course, makes sense, but now they're out cities like Richmond. And why will it make sense for Richmond? We have some of our largest employers here talk all the time that our biggest problem is a housing problem. They can't attract and retain talented employees because we don't have housing. And most of them want either a 0 lot line house, like they're building on Garwood Road, because they don't want any yard to take care of to speak of, or they want a market rate or resort style apartment building. So right now in Greenwood, 3 of these apartment buildings like this are being built at a cost that's almost twice what these are, and the rent will be 50 to 40% more. And in Greenwood, just south of Indianapolis, which isn't the best donut city of Indianapolis. Sorry, Greenwood. I'm at the Greenwood mayor. I mean, Greenwood has problems. Richmond has problems. So they're building these in this area, and they're putting in retention ponds. And I'm like, we got a gorge. We can walk about 1/8 of a mile to a natural water resource that we're activating. We'll soon have canoeing, kayaking, zip lines. So Denise Ress is doing a great job with the Parks Department. The veterans are doing a great job with their parks. Star Jeanette's there. The farmers market's down there. This is the only market rate apartments like this where you'll be able to walk down to a river, gorge, historic gorge, and do all these water activities. Or just go down and do yoga, or just go and meditate, or just stop at the farmers market. In Bloomington, they've got the farmers market along an old railroad track. Yay. But other places, if you compare what we're going to have, nobody's going to have it quite like this. None of these apartments like this are built close to a lake. Now, Lawrenceburg is right on the Ohio River, but that's a pretty well rushing river. That's not a place you could just go hang out.
So these apartments where Elder Behrman's building is, who are the different partners involved with making this happen. And has everything been signed? Is it a done deal? Or are we still just waiting on certain things to happen?
There's the city has committed money, the county has committed money, the redevelopment commission has committed. In theory, they have to go back to the redevelopment commission for one more vote on the actual finance side of that. We have banks who are waiting, two of them chomping at the bit, so to speak, to fund this thing because they believe in it and they believe in this group. Now that this group is building this is unlike most others. This Flaherty and Collins group out of Indianapolis, when they build these, they maintain ownership and they manage them and lease them themselves. So for 25 years, there's a contractor written into the deed that for 25 years, these will be market rate apartments. They're going to have a dog spa. They're going to have a gym. So these apartments, yes, it may be more than a rental house over here in this other district, but it comes with your gym memberships. It comes with a common space. It comes with a swimming pool. It comes with a dog spa. It comes with a bicycle repair shop because it's on the multimodal trail. So they'll have a free bicycle repair shop to place to store your bike and work on your bike. If you walk down to the river or you go to the swimming pool or you go to the gym, it's all included. That's pretty cool. Indianapolis doesn't have that. These apartments like this along the canal is cool, and you can rent a paddle boat and go on the canal, but you can't fish it. You can't just go hang out as a place to just hang out during the day when the weather's nice.
Okay. Well, I'm just interested to see when it could all come together. I mean, because that building's going to have to come down.
Yes.
So what if you're? I don't think we can hold it on you because there's so many moving parts. But do you have any, idea in your mind when the wrecking ball would show up and we start knocking this, leveling the current building to the ground so we can build?
We thought it would be the city before. I just started as mayor. They thought it would be this January, but because of some delays last year and some personnel changes and some other issues, it should be sometime this spring or early summer.
Okay.
So the one more vote for the last piece of funding for the redevelopment commission will come up soon, and then it's a matter of we start tearing down the building, and they go back to the banks and they close on the properties, and I think it's going to be pretty cool. Now, I hate that the Elderburn building's coming down. I wish we had two developers look at it originally while I was on council. And the first one was put apartments overhead and the second floor and put retail on the bottom floor. I thought that was perfect because that building is poured concrete, walls and roof. It's made explosion proof for a reason. That's how they got Elderburn to come downtown. So there's a lot of concrete and steel, but that didn't pan out for a lot of reasons. And the next one had an idea. The next one, the idea they had to make apartments in that whole space. When they looked at the facade, they had this nice drawing, and I could show you the drawing of the facade, but it was $7 million just to change the facade to get windows in these apartments. So they said, well, this just doesn't make sense. What makes sense now is if we demolish it, raise it, and we grind the concrete and steel and recycle it just like we did at the old Reed Hospital, not put it in a landfill, grind and recycle. The materials are never get reused, and then we can create a brand new space. They want 140 roughly apartments in there. 140 apartments have 140 kitchens, and some of them will have 2 bathrooms. This property has 4 restrooms. The water's not there, the sewer's not there. The problem is under the building. As much as the building itself, most of the problems are under the building and around the building. We've got to put the infrastructure in place to support something like this.
Okay.
And doesn't exist. So we'd have to tear up the floor anyways just to get that many kitchens and restrooms in there. So it just wasn't financially possible and just didn't make sense. Well, but also the plan is, if I can show you the drawings, it mostly faces west. So it'll go from Main Street all the way down to South A. So that little side street is gone. So the whole thing faces the west. There'll be some facing the east, of course. And they're leasing places from the parking garage. So on the back side, on the east side, they'll have the parking garage over there. They'll have some parking down here. They'll have their swimming pool area. So the thing will be long and narrow. And on the 6th Street side, it'll look more like a Chicago brownstone walk-up. So the first floor residents will be able to park on all of 6th Street. They'll be parking, and they can just walk right up, or you can park on the back side and come in, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there's small apartments. There's big apartments. It's mostly, mostly 1 bedroom and mostly smaller to medium apartments. There'll be a couple of deluxe, like 8 deluxe apartments with like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and there'll be some studio apartments. But one of the things they said, because they maintain ownership, They only do long-term lease, so they won't lease to people moving in and out, but they will lease to corporations. So a lot of the businesses heard that, and they're looking, well, how many do I need to rent? So a lot of the businesses will come in and will lease 4 or 5 or even 10 spaces as they bring staff in and out, either temporary or long-term, or give them a place to live while they get settled into their new career and then build their own house.
Well, I think that this project is a big part of momentum happening.
Yes.
So I do hope it happens, and I hope it happens as sooner than later. And but I do agree. I'd have to agree that I think that would be a huge boost for our city in general.
There's a lot of people living just in Ohio. There's a lot of, I know some staff people of different businesses and organizations who live outside Cincinnati or outside Indianapolis and drive here because we don't have the housing they want, the lifestyle they want. But I also found, back to these apartments, when they first started building these as infills, that's their specialty. They take a property and do an infill. They had mostly young families or young professionals. But it's said in recent years it's flipped to 60-40. 40% of their residents now are empty nesters who realize that I'm tired of mowing the lawn. I've got, I may have a weekend home by the lake. If I could live here, because my work is here 4 or 5 days a week, plus they can walk down to the river that's going to have all kinds of amenities. They can walk to restaurants. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for the possibility of that, and we'll just pray that it happens. I guess we'll wrap this up, but before we do, is there anything else that noteworthy you want to share about what's going on with the city? And
I'm very excited, very energized for the economic growth. Last week, I did a interview with Earlham College for their media department for the Lilly Grant, and we were on the 3rd floor of the BSN Kessler's building looking out over the glass. And I bring that up because I made an appointment with them to do that again in 3.5 years from that same spot and that same window and see how different downtown looks in 3.5 years as it does today.
Yeah. So
that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the next 3 to 4 years.
Well, I wish you the best of luck moving forward. If you and your administration are successful, everybody wins. Everybody does. And so thank you for coming on the Hub.
Glad to be here.
I really appreciate your time doing that.
Glad to be here. Next time we'll do it when the weather is a little warmer, because for our viewers, this is a cold space.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up out in front of the new apartments. We'll go
awesome.
remote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Appreciate it.
Michael Allen from Manpower. We are a national brand, yet locally owned franchise. We are familiar with the challenges businesses face. It's tough recruiting and retaining qualified employees. That's why working with Manpower is a smart, cost-effective solution. Our entire focus is talent acquisition. We'll manage your hiring and training and provide ongoing customized support. Since 1966, we have been your community-invested partner, uniquely positioned to help eliminate the hassles and save you time and money. Let us help. Contact Manpower today.